Into a Wider Galaxy, Part 466, Antlers, Assumptions, and Artillery. An update, Harold notes as Puma's competitiveness has gotten him to challenge Rain to a dance-off. He's claimed it's to the death, but no one is taking that part seriously. Interesting. Approved. Approved of what? Uma asks as she watches her little nephew try to win the dance contest by spinning, which isn't helping. My DNA being released for examination. Apparently something fishy is going on with a child, and they need an example of a modified human. Which I am, Harold says. Excuse me. Puma, little dude. The machine tracks arm movements only. You don't need to go that wild. Hey, no helping him, Rain protests. He's handing you a win. It's no fun if there's no challenge for it. Harold protests right back. No, I'm not handing her a win. I'm gonna win, Puma shouts, and Harold can outright imagine the little man revealing sharp teeth at that. He's pissed, and Harold can only just keep himself from laughing. The scene change. Undaunted Arcology, Northern Landing Platform, the Sky Garden. War. So forgive me if I sound ignorant, Raisin says as he overlooks things. You are forgiven, Private Stream says, and he rolls his eyes. But I read about the Floric, and there was a mention of technology that required decapitation to use, or them being endlessly ravenous or looking more inhuman than the ones we encountered here. The summaries of species are how other people see them at a glance, Private Stream says, and the Floric, who have probably one of the largest issues with cannibalism the galaxy over, are scary and people keep a distance. So the information is suspect. Right, okay, but what would that even look like? Raisin asks. Is it these things? These indents in the walls? I think it's this actually, Private Stream says as he reaches under the console he's at and pulls out a long drawer filled with earth and has a scanner bar on it. You can put a Floric head right here, and it's being sustained by the soil while they operate the ship. He then goes into the scanner's files and nods. It's why so many systems are interconnected. Once a head starts putting down roots, it's immobile until they can form a full body again. So if they're plopped in front of one screen or another, they need to be able to access it and other ship components from it. And such a system would only work for a decapitated head. Got it in one. The big scary tech that relies on decapitating people are mobility aids and computer interfaces for their heads. Also some vehicles they can operate through mental commands so they stay mobile and useful. Think more wheelchair than torture device. So are all these little blurbs about the species just the stereotypes? Pretty much. Stereotypes exist for a reason, though. It's unflattering pattern recognition. Some go into detail, some go into a borderline meme, and some are almost technical. But all of them are a look at a subject so broad and expansive that an entire collage degree would be needed to even begin to understand the subject. How do you summarize that in a way that isn't offensive? Private Stream asks. You don't, you give the offense and move on because there's no way to avoid giving it, Raisin realizes. Like how our summary says that humans are liable to be boring, but work in the porn industry or as prostitutes due to having so many men. To be fair, ours needs some updating due to the sheer amount of madness we've been up to. Heavy remarks as he starts to open and close drawers in front of each of the consoles and checking to see if there's anything he can spot. Hello, what's this? You're at the communications console, and I see a hole in the earth here and a tangle of small roots around the outside. What? Raisin asks as he walks over and looks inside. The older one with the smaller body. She must have come out of this one and never bothered to refill it or mulch the tiny roots that remain. Heavy sticks his scanner in there, and his eyebrows go up. Clean. Sort of. There's a lot of dead material in here, but in soil that's fine. Right, well, we seem to have a good grasp of what's going on and got the viruses out. Best we can do now is a manual sweep of the ship and call in what we see. The soil can't be properly removed without a proper container, and that's going to take, Raisin says, looking to Private Stream. 20 minutes. The container style is actually pretty damn common the galaxy over. They use axiom pockets to transport gigantic amounts of fertilizer and soil, normally delivering to space stations or the gardens of Charbis or Vulba hives. Empty ones normally lay in a lot for a bit before being moved on. Zalwar comes through, everyone's always shifting product. Rayson remarks. Let's sweep the ship before it gets here so we don't have to wait long to actually get this poison shit out of here. Not to mention the entire ship is designed to be a foot deep in soil at all places, so it's just easier to navigate this way. Private Stream says, You guys sweep it. I'll keep control of things up here. All right, head out, men. Raisin orders and his men shift out of the bridge and begin sweeping the sky garden from chamber to chamber. Scene change. Holterra, Scrap Trap. Arcology, Bundle of Joy, Pediatrics, Zalwar. Oh, he must be a relation. The DNA is fairly close, the pediatrician says as she compares the released information. Who is the father? Apparently a man named Herbert Jameson, his clone. Harold Jameson released his DNA for examination. And I'm almost entirely certain that Harold has not been in contact with the Floric. He was only a few weeks old when he was assigned to the Inevitable as security and has been serving since. He does have several brides, but has not even encountered Floric by my understanding. There are some strange things happening here. I'm not completely sure how to categorize it, and it's causing my sequencer to give out small error messages. It looks like energy. It's attuned to something, but not axiom. Yes, Harold was the epicenter for an unusual axiom effect that had more exotic energies as part of it. As a result, his body now channels those energies and then converts them into a personalized axiom field. Saint Redblade? The newest add onto the primal faith? Yes. Oh, Okay then. Well, philosophical, or perhaps theological arguments aside, Forrest here is a relation to Harold. According to DNA, a direct ancestor, barring this strange energy. However, it's very odd, very stable, and I'm not sure how this was done. There are records for children of Florics, not many, but enough for the information to be retrieved with just a few searches. And this is different. Somewhat. Floric never give birth to their own species. They have their own method of reproduction through self-mutilation. But this is not the standard result. What is the standard result of a Floric hybrid? Electric Mama asks. A heavily reinforced skull primarily, an increase on protein requirements and tougher skin secondarily. And finally, they generally have an axiom-based proclivity to manipulating plants. This child has some of these traits, but no Floric hybrid has had leaves growing out of their head before. And moreover, the child isn't showing the traditional points where Floric influence would be found in the DNA. But they do have several activation points where plants traditionally do. Anything else? Observer Wu asks. Well, some of these activation points seem to have what looks almost like repair work done. You see it on people who have undergone numerous healing comas. Time damages everything, even DNA. And if you know where to look, you can find the traces of harm. Even if it's been repair, there are signs. The pediatrician continues as she points out a visualization on the screen of DNA, but Observer Wu cannot tell the two parts apart. I'll take your word for it. Anyways, it almost looks like the genetic sequence of the H child was damaged severely during development and then spontaneously repaired, but also altered. Harold Jameson is a typical member of this genoline because the axiom effect that changed him also changed the original Herbert Jameson, the other clones and the sons and daughters of the original. If Forrest is also a Jameson, and he was still in the womb when this happened, then the energy saved the babe's life and altered it, the pediatrician says. More and more complications. All this because the madman wanted a distraction. What happened? A cult had a technique for pulling ships out of a laneway and used it to try and kidnap our vessel. Captain Rangi fought back, and eventually the fighting destroyed the sacred nebula of the cult, doing just enough harm to seriously galvanize all of them and turn a controversial battle into something that would unify and militarize the entire population. So Harold came up with the idea of restoring their nebula to distract them. It worked. In fact, it worked too well in every regard, and we're still finding more fallout to what he did that day even now. At this rate, I expect to find further ramifications to his actions arriving for centuries to come, Observer Wu says. How big of an axiom effect did he cast? Thousands of adepts worked in concert across the galaxy, including multiple primals, to cast the effect into Herbert and through Herbert into Harold. That would more than do it, in fact. This isn't going to be unique. I can tell you here and now that a person is never more mutable than when they're being made. A babe in the womb? Easily prone to change. And with the outright supernatural resilience of primals being potentially mixed in? Yeah, it answers a lot, the pediatrician says. Such as, the babe has heavy metal poisoning, but they're showing no sign of developing it before birth, which would mean that things either started after the child was born, or in light of these revelations, that the change occurred and healed the child, and potentially the mother too while they were suffering under the effects of the poison. He may have already saved his mother's life once. Observer Wu is just staring with a stunned expression at Forrest now. Hello? Message for human official. Come in, human official. What? Observer Wu asks, looking up. You were somewhere else for a moment. Idam. I had to see some fairly horrible things during my time as a police officer. Some of the worst were the results of mothers being drugged or poisoned while pregnant. What it did to the mother and child, and this, he looks back to Forrest. He won. He beat it. I need to take a break. I'm getting affected by all this. It's hitting me. I need to be more impartial than I am now. So you're leaving? Electric Mama asks. I am leaving. I'm requesting that another doctor be sent here so that any requested knowledge of human biology can be answered post-haste. You have taken legal custody of the child. I hope you raise the dear boy as well as you've raised up that arena. Count on it, big man. And if you want to give him a sibling, please, stop by my place before leaving. No, madam, I will not. Observer Wu says tartly. Please change your mind. No, he says, and she sighs. Well, maybe on a potential return trip, I'll have my milfiness upgraded. Might persuade you. She teases and his eyes scrunch together in exasperation. Scene change. Undaunted arcology, Western Face Gardens, isolated recovery area, Zalwar. Stem lets out a groan and she starts to shift. Tiny roots, sleep roots. She avoids snapping them as she can feel not better. She feels so bad in general that it's impossible to tell one way or the other. But she's more aware. Maybe. A little. There is axiom pumping through everything, and she can feel a shovelful of something warm and loamy being tossed into her side. She opens her eyes and looks to the side. She can't turn her head enough, but she can control enough axiom to bend her vision a little. A handsome young andinous man is shoveling dark potting soil out of a wheelbarrow and tossing it to her side, leaving her front exposed to a powerful sun lamp above. Is this a dream? She asks, and he pauses. What are you dreaming about? He asks her after a few moments. You're helping me. I'm dreaming that I'm being helped, she says, and he pauses, looks uncertain and rubs at his chin with a pincer. Well, yes, you are being helped. I am under orders to pack some potting soil around you, your daughter, and developing granddaughter. Double-check the cleansing totems and note everything down, he says. How long have I been here? It feels like an eternity. Not long. We just finished locking down what kind of routine we'll be doing to help your recovery. I'm literally the first shift on this duty. Ever, the Andinus says, and she blinks. My grandchild? I don't know about that, ma'am. Ma'am, as if I'm not a monster. She almost whispers. You're not scared of me. It's kind of hard to be scared of someone too sick to stand, the Andinus says. Oh, okay, that makes sense, she says before closing her eyes and letting herself drift back to sleep. She feels another shovelful of soil land beside her and can feel her roots growing into it for clean and healthy nutrients. Into a Wider Galaxy, Part 467, Antlers, Assumptions, and Artillery. He's really not sure what to make of her. Floric are, always have been. Everything he had ever heard about them said monster, said that they were dangerous and unreasonable. But he'd seen all the footage, begging to save a child, ripping off their own head to stop themselves from hurting another, dying due to the petty neglect and cruelty of others. A monster is something that is an unrelenting threat. It comes out of nowhere, can't be ignored, and has to be fought. He pats down the soil with the back of his shovel a bit as he considers. She had passed out again, and likely would flicker in and out of consciousness. The question of using a healing coma had come up, but then the debates as to just how it would react to a Floric had followed. Cases where hospitals actually helped them were thin on the ground, non-existent in the Zalwar infosphere, and they were apparently researching further for answers, but the lack of answers was telling. Either no Floric had ever been hurt enough to warrant a hospital stay, which was absurd to the point of insanity, or much more likely, no one ever cared to help one, which, there is a pang of shame at that. His time in basic had beaten it, almost literally, into his head that everyone is worthy of at least some level of respect. The crash course, emphasis on crash, in basic vehicle maintenance and in weapon upkeep had taught him good and hard that people with hands-on jobs did a lot more work to keep society running than anyone else, and got none of the respect for it. That the differences of species on the personal level usually boiled down more to how they like to sit or eat than anything. And now he was getting a reminder. "Hello there, I'm Private Stream. You need anything?" The guard of the small area asks, and he turns to see drill instructor Veers and several others, but his eyes mostly go to the drill instructor that had made him do push-ups until his pincers ached and his arms felt ready to fall off. The fact he had matched them all one-handed and on fingertips while clearly was waiting for him to go through them as he held himself perfectly still had really demonstrated just how physically powerful a person could be without axiom. "Just taking a look. Are we at the limit of how close we can get?" Instructor Veers asks, and Private Stream nods. "All right then. Do we have any more information available or within our clearance level to hear about what's going on?" "A civilian ship was tainted, and we're cleaning it out and nursing them back to health," Private Stream says. "Tainted?" one of the enormous women with Instructor Veers asks. "The Carib." "Heavy metal poisoning? Not something you have to worry about breathing it in, but best to keep a distance. As Floric, the civilians need clean soil, and we've been taking good care of our gardens, so we're better." "We're better indeed. Well, if our favorite garden is going to be off limits, then makeshift hospital is probably one of the better reasons." "Oh, it's your favorite?" Private Stream asks. "Not overly choked with bushes, not too hot and not too cold. Not perfect, but when we're together, it's the one we like the most as a couple." The crib states, and Private Stream nods. "Right, well, sorry, you'll just have to go to the second best options for a bit, at least until we can move the girls properly," Private Stream says. "All right, we'll head out. Best of luck," Instructor Veers says shortly before his group turns away, leaving just him and his shovel and Private Stream. He's finished around the elder Floric and moves to tamping some more potting soil around the head of the younger one. He has no idea how mobile she's going to be. For all he knows, she already has an outline of her next body in hair-thin roots, or maybe hasn't even started and can be picked up and carried elsewhere. Most of him is just wondering where the stomach of the head could possibly be and how on earth she packs all the bits for a digestive tract, respiratory tract, and a fully functioning brain in a head alone. The layer is fairly thin, and he pulls out a few bits of nutrient packets that he taps into the soil, followed by clean water, which reminds him, and he goes and waters around the elder Floric as well. The arrival of Instructor Veers had distracted him. A few bits of nutrient packets tucked around the elder Floric, and he then heads over to the final patient. If tending to a head is unusual, then a decapitated body is another, and it is easily the worst of the three. The other two were off color, occasionally twitching, and were breathing in such a way as to occasionally lose rhythm and almost wake up, but they were at least resting. The body, on the other hand, was shivering and twisting. It was breathing, but heavily, and to be frank, he wasn't sure if what they were doing was helping. Trying to get it to lie still wasn't really working, and they didn't want to damage it. But from what little everyone had been able to determine, the body is supposed to lie still and be buried up to the chest at least. But it was squirming so much it had dug itself out. The Floric were too out of it to offer advice, and too little was actually known about the species to understand it. He wants to get closer, but the body lashes out. He steps away and avoids the almost clawed hand. He scoops up a shovel full of earth and tosses it on the twitching body. It shakes it off and continues to squirm. Be a lot easier if tying it up was an option, he notes to himself. Probably. but the little pseudo-brains in it have just enough ability to use axiom and snap things. Private Stream says, and he slowly turns to face him. Yes, Trooper Hooktail? Pseudo-brains? Well, not really brains, but slightly more developed nerve bundles on both sides of the joints on every limb. It's how the body is still capable of moving and twitching and keeping itself alive without the head. It's got about a quarter-sized brain interspersed throughout the body, and there's a couple more in the torso that seem to be pure memory storage. Honestly, it's kind fascinating. Huh, really? So there's still a functioning mind in this twitching mess? He asks as the body rocks from side to side, and there's a sloshing sound as the sheer horror that's happened to the body means there's a cavity with fluids in it, and they're not sure what to actually do about it. It doesn't seem healthy, but it's a plant. It might be. So what's going on with the Floric? We don't know. We're trying to get into contact with a Floric to find some kind of in-species expert, but we're not having much luck. However, it appears most of the motor functions of the brain are in the limbs, and there is a level of memory storage in the torso. Think like a synth, but organic, and like a synth. Nowhere near as badly hurt if their heads are harmed. Okay, but why then? Think about it. Floric are said to reproduce at a rate of one a month, and then in 12 months it can go to 2 a month at least. And then it keeps going up as the heads regrow new bodies and the original body is still taking off heads. But each of them, from the moment they finish growing, can walk, reason, and move. Infants of other species need multiple years, and according to some rumor, the Floric even grow into being knowing language as well. What if that's why? A memory copy, one in the head, one in the body. The new head is just that, a new head, with Ty's own copy of all the information that it grows again into the new body. But if it's only a quarter the size of the actual head brain, when put together, that's what I meant, yes. Oh, carry on. But if it's only a quarter of the size of the normal Floric brain, then what is left behind in the body? And can it survive this poison? Will the next Floric to emerge from this body be deranged in some way? Hooktail asks, and Private Stream looks considerate, before shrugging. Very helpful. Hey, we're looking for experts. Until we have one, I'm just as in the dark as you. Fair. But there has to be some way to try and calm it, or get it to stop thrashing at least. Between the breasts, Stem calls out and they turn. If you want it to sleep, you need to use the axiom technique between the breasts. There's a knot of wood there that holds a more activating part of the mind. If it senses danger, the body thrashes, tries to fight. But poison, it's in the body. You should be resting. Yes, Stem agrees. Private Stream then reaches in to try and cause the body to stop moving and gets smacked in the chest hard. He's sent staggering back, and Hooktail reaches down and presses a pincer against the chest and forces it down gently as he runs a forced sleep technique across the chitin. It's still and resting. He takes the pincer away and waits a few moments. It's breathing well and only occasionally twitching, no longer writhing and thrashing. Okay then, this can work, he says as he grabs his shovel again and starts clearing out the hole the body had twisted its way out of before gently lowering the sleeping, headless thing into the hole and gently burying it. It takes him a bit, but he soon has it up to its shoulders in loose packed soil that he sprinkles water over. He takes a picture with his communicator and goes over to where Stem is starting to snooze again. Hey, he says, crouching down to her level. Sorry to disturb you, but is this the right way to do it? He waits for her eyes to flutter open and shows the picture. My old body, yes, that is fine. If we don't have enough sunlight, then axiom helps. It's harder to use it for earth and water, though. She dozes off again. All right, then. We may have them stable. For now, Hooktail mutters. We still need something approaching an expert, Private Stream says. Yes, we do. Scene change. Undaunted arcology. Landing platforms. The inevitable Zal War. Observer Wu sits down not at his desk and chair, but on his bed as he takes a deep breath to try and center himself. There is a knock at his door. Not now. Just concerned, sir. I just need some time, he says, and he can hear whoever that was walking away. His glasses are off, and in their case, as he simply breathes in deeply, holds for a moment, and then slowly exhales. The image of the flesh market starts to fade from his mind, but nowhere near as quickly as he wants. The things he had found there, in the back and past a room full of incense to block the sheer stench of it all. He breathes in, and the memory of burning agar wood incense mixing with the stench of chemicals, rot, and sheer fucking misery and abuse. The tiny bodies, deformed, dead, and decaying. The feeling of that polluted air tainting his skin. Proving without a shadow of a doubt that evil and corruption existed as tangible things. So thick and heavy it was, leaking from the spiritual plane of that pocket of hell. The urge to spit is enormous. He is not tasting it. He is not there. It's not in his mouth. He is no longer looking at the tiny eyes from malformed skulls. Babes twisted by all forms of drugs and poisons used on their abused mothers and thrown in the back like refuse. Lives destroyed before they could start and discarded when they were. He takes in a deep breath and pushes away the memory of that twisted and foul brothel. The child was untouched, healed instead of harmed. This is not the same. This is not the same. He says to himself as he considers Forrest struggling to live, but being taken care of and with many, many prospects. There is a twinge of rage that this one child gets to endure when so many others fell. And he breathes it out. It is not the fault of the child or anyone else. That a child has survived such nightmares is a blessing, even if it is a blessing in far, far, far too short a supply. He forces himself to relax as he was tensing up, wanting to lash out. He breathes in, holds it for a moment, and breathes out, imagining all the bile and poison of these resentful emotions flowing out with his breath. He continues breathing in and out, breathing in and then holding it, gathering his poisonous thoughts and feelings within his breath as he holds it, then breathes out and lets it go. Yes, it is unfair, but there is nothing he can do about it. Be grateful the boy has survived. Never forget those that did not, and move forward. He has his duties to attend to. It is time to return to them. Into a Wider Galaxy, Part 468. H. Herbert's 100 Harem. He skips and whistles as he goes along to the tune of the music vaguely audible in the council chambers. Hello! His childish voice shocks all the guards women, and he's technically in the part of the council building they were guarding. Wait, everyone calls out, and he stops so quickly he windmills his arms around to stop himself from falling over. Yes? He asks, turning around. He is completely in his private stream persona, and with lives on the line and proper contact with a hated people, then his combination of heavy firepower, extreme stealth, authority to actually get things done, and diplomatic training makes him perfect for this. That's the Distant Wilds Embassy. I know, he states, the Floric worlds in what used to be distant space. Yeah, technically prosperous space now, with the improvements of engines some 300 years ago, I think. Long before I was born at any rate. He considers before tapping at his chin. Hey, shouldn't they be called the prosperous wilds now? It's not in distant space anymore. That's not the point. The distant wilds are a Floric embassy, and they're not safe to be around. This is the only end trace barring the private landing pad and emergency exits, all of them monitored and guarded. Okay, so I'm in the right place. Thank you, ladies, he says with a cheer wave and turns around. Hold it! He flails his arms a bit to sell the idea that they're distracting him. What's wrong? I need to get some people to talk to the plant ladies. Do you know what Floric do? Do? Well, they're a people, right? So they probably have ambassadors and doctors and guards, right? They eat people. They've eaten people? Yes. Who did they eat? He asks, and there's a pause. Did the person not have a name? No, it's just... When was this? He asks. It's just what Floric do. Every few weeks, some new Floric comes screaming out of somewhere and has to be stopped before she does something. That's the first I've heard of it. He lies. He has 10 people combing through petabytes of data looking for confirmed Floric injuries and attacks, and while they do seem to be slightly more violence-prone than average, it's still nothing compared to a Canador or Apuc. There have been bite injuries and even people with chunks taken out, but the actual casualties were shockingly low, and it looked like the Floric themselves were very harshly self-regulating. The attacks were enough to keep people scared. After all, hearing about how someone had a limb ripped off and eaten by a feral plant woman is terrifying. But the most recent incident where someone had lost a limb like that had been 4 weeks ago. The Floric in question had been dragged off her victim by other Floric, and the victim had made it to a hospital in time for a full recovery thanks to healing comas. But in those 4 weeks, that same spire had seen thousands of murders, millions of assaults, and enough petty and drug-related crime that the only way the cannibalism stood out is if you were specifically looking for it. Well, they do. They're dangerous. Well, it doesn't matter. I got a job to do, he says. So excuse me, ladies, I need to talk to some plants. Wait, no. I was looking right at him, the guard exclaims as Herbert grabs at the sensation of that stealth. The eyes are slipping off him as he walks forward, and they actually start pursuing. He pushes away the stealth and seems to reappear from their points of view. How did you? Okay, everyone needs to calm down. I'm on official business. I need to talk to the Floric. Medical reasons. Lives are on the line. And this is the only place I can reliably get into contact with Florics. So here I am. Look, child, this is... Operative Jameson? A vaguely familiar voice asks. He turns to see a Floric woman, green, vine-like body covered in a business suit, but doing little to hide the fact she's considerably larger than expected. The vines from the stem of her pumpkin-like head suggest a ponytail. Currently, he answers. Currently? The Floric asks. I'm on field duties for the moment, so yes. I also do work as advisor and administrator in the Undaunted, he answers. Ah, well, I'm Karen Petal, Secretary of Ambassador Woods. Excellent. Hopefully we can get on the bottom of why a simple information request needs this much attention. Medical data on our species is a concerning request. Not when Herbert begins, before looking to the guards. Let's finish this with Ambassador Woods. Of course, this way, please, she says. Wait a minute, he's still a child and... Healing coma. I've been a legal adult for a long while and am a combat-ready soldier. Honestly, lady, he looks up the well-armored and armed woman. With raw gear alone, I've got you beat. You and most of squad, to be honest. Take in other things such as personal ability and sheer willingness to use my tools, and I've probably got the entire building. That is not what a security guard wants to hear. Ever. No, but it is something that a concerned woman would like to hear, that the object of her concern is so well defended. Who are you? The guard asks, and he takes off his hat. Operative Jameson, recognized huntsman, patriarch of the Jalak birds, source of the Jameson clone line, father of over 100 children, initiator of the Private Stream Initiative. Anyways, I know what I'm doing. It's fine, Herbert says with a grin. What happened to your eyes? Big axiom effect I had cast into me and threw me into my oldest clone brother, forever changing the Jameson family, all my sons and daughters. And apparently, the child that was born of a Floric woman who had sequenced part of my stolen code to produce a son. A son now horribly sick with his mother and grandmother dying by inches. I need medical information to save this distant branch of my family. And it's not in the infospheres, not here on Centris or on Zalwar where the family is. This way, Karen says before racing off, and Herbert chases her down. What are their names? Stem and Vine. What little I've been able to find on the Floric tells me that their names are very common, as is the name of their ship, the Sky Garden. Herbert says following her in, and eventually Floric guards are evident, and they're hooked into mech suits with transparent armor plating. The lights in this embassy are all sun lamps, and the first door she opens has a carpet of soft grass, rather than the actual carpet of the rest of the building. Whoa, 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 Karen, what are you doing? A lost child and... Wait, that uniform. An official-looking Floric demands rushing up. She's much slighter than the secretary. Her seeming rank would imply seniority, but the size of her makes her look like a teenager compared to the younger Karen. Hello, I'm Operative Herbert Jameson of the Undaunted. I'm here to speak with Ambassador Woods. Oh, um, I am Ambassador Woods. Oh, well, that's lucky then. I need information of floric biology and medical treatment, specifically for heavy metal poisoning. My people are caring for a pair of floric on Zalwar that had their ship badly sabotaged and were repeatedly sold tainted fertilizer, creating a dangerous concoction that has them in a delicate situation. What are they poisoned with? She asked before holding up a hand. Wait, no, in my office. He follows her into a nearby room. Karen, can you fetch some comet melt for my guest and myself? She leads him into a nearby room, and there is the sound of something letting out a woofing noise. An enormous creature on 4 legs rises up and regards them with a lazy gaze. The snout and general build suggests it's some kind of bear, but it appears to be wearing armor made of mushrooms caps. Oh, what is that? Domesticated sporehound, so the big guy is fat, lazy, and friendly rather than small, quick and mean. Like wild ones, Ambassador Woods says before sitting at her desk. Now then, human, what is this about injured floric? Poison, to be specific. While the observer from Earth was visiting our colleges on Zalwar, he was approached by a pair of floric with a bundle. They spoke oddly, were clearly not in the right mind and very unhealthy. They were begging him to take the child or find a place for a child that the younger one with the more powerful body Vine had given birth to, claiming it was human. Was it? Modified, but yes. Modified? The child, like its mother and grandmother, is badly ill due to heavy metal poisoning. But what's interesting is the child is showing traits anomalous with floric-descended children and several of its own. But the important bit is that the mother, who had torn off her head, grandmother and decapitated body had been teleported back to their ship. Undaunted forces wanted to ask them questions, but they weren't answering calls, and when no information was coming, we sent someone to check on them just in case. What they found was a dying ship, the soil tainted with cerium, lead, mercury, and neodymium. The animals they were raising all dead, the other plants inside the ship dying or dead. Vine and the body twitching and dying as Stem was in the process of dying and trying to fix a ship despite being so sick she could barely stand. Do you know why floric are so reluctant to mix with others or reveal information? Your reputation. You are hated, and giving out this information is the sort of thing that could hurt you. The galaxy has rejected us almost as much as it has embraced you, Ambassador Woods says. What's the name of the hybrid child, and whose DNA was sequenced? In order, Forrest and my own, Herbert says, and she doesn't seem to respond. But her pet has risen up and is snuffling up next to her, sensing something. Yawn. Are you doing this because they're family? I'm doing this because they need help. It doesn't matter that the child was sequenced from my DNA. I don't even care that there is a child to begin with. They need help, and I have the ability to help them. I have the responsibility to help them. This isn't an infiltration mission where I have to let something horrifying happen because not doing it would mean that some monster will get away later if I don't. This isn't a case where I have to stomach and document evil so it can be properly countered. I have the information. I am using it to beg for the knowledge to save lives. Do I need to go from metaphorical to literal begging? Do I need to be on my knees to convince you that I want to help a pair of floric? No, it's that this situation is unusual, she says, tapping at her desk and then plugging in, then pulling out and handing over a data chip. This will have a list and instructions on procedures we use to safely remove heavy metals from our persons. Herbert takes it, plugs it into his communicator, and sends the information to Zalwar. Thank you. Now that I'm here, yes? Well, I'd like to learn about the floric. Not much is known beyond the spooky stories and the most general information, and anything more specific is usually only known because it was featured in some kind of horror movie or something. Like the distributed brain through the body. One of our troopers was in a small panic while he tried to keep a headless body still so it could get the nutrients in the clean soil of the garden it's now in. I see. Incidentally, is there a way or a need to feed decapitated floric heads or bodies? A way to safely get them some protein? Yes, it's detailed in the data chit, she says, and he nods. Okay, good. Now, I've noticed a bit of a pattern with the Floric, I think. I haven't seen anywhere near enough Floric to actually see a pattern, but I've noticed something might be emerging, which is the younger Florics seem to have larger and more developed bodies. Forgive me if this is presumptuous, but is this part of how you gain such a reputation? The youngest of your kind having more powerful bodies of adults? No sense of consequences, no sense of self-preservation and rush out, get hungry and then give the whole of the Floric a horrible reputation? In part, that was what started and sustains it. Reminds people every time we show up in the news, it's usually because someone was bitten. But just how unrelentingly aggressive our homeworld and colony worlds are is part of it. What do you mean? Look, Bosno here. The Sharda are fungus canine hybrids, and in the wild roam around in ever-shifting packs that will swarm anything vaguely made of meat and devour them until they're bloated, rub themselves in the stain and rush off. And what makes Bosno so passive? Look at him. He's so fat that he never even hunted a day in his life. Ever since he butted off his matriarch, he's had a full food bowl and no question as to where his next meal came from. Bosno is a him? Yes, like all creatures from our homeworld, Bosno reproduces in two separate ways, either asexually or sexually. Do Florics actually have males? That is our little secret. Ah, I'm not confirming anything. You girls clearly have a lot of secrets, but as much as it normally is my job to root those suckers out, there's no need to do it with you and yours. We're not enemies, maybe friends someday. Friends, she asks. Why not? We've learned better is why. While the galaxy has no legal way of getting rid of us, we have no way of getting rid of them, no matter how much one side or the other wishes otherwise. Just because things are as they are now, doesn't mean they stay that way. You'll forgive me, little human, but I don't have much hope in that regard. Into a Wider Galaxy, Part 469. Antlers, Assumptions, and Artillery. The door to his chamber opens, and Observer Wu looks up to find that the man interrupting his meditation is Captain Rangi. Captain, Observer Wu states. Observer, are you breaking? Captain Rangi is to the point. Do we need to retreat? No, I am... Observer Wu takes a breath to regain the last of his composure. I have encountered something today that reminds me of one of the most pivotal moments of my life. In what way? Captain, have you ever encountered something that changes everything? A single moment that following which nothing is ever the same? Where you can see into your life and know for absolute certain that you are a different person. Yes. My father was killed in a drunk driving incident. We were rammed head-on by a drunkard who died instantly. As did my father. I was in the back, strapped in and safe. I was trapped in the car with my father's corpse for an hour. The horns unceasing, the stench growing. I was 8 years old, Captain Rangi says grimly. I was 21. I had been a police officer for 2 years. A year of training after the waiting. 2 years of learning about the job and the politics. A routine inspection grew worse and worse and worse. It was a brothel, specializing in drug mothers. Their prized piece of meat was a woman so intoxicated with opium that it had influenced her breast milk, which was being sold the privilege of drinking it. Dear God. But that was not the worst of it. The worst was their disposal chamber. Their what? The disposal chamber. The brothel specialized in lactating women. For a woman to lactate, she must be pregnant or to have given birth. But they had no use for the babes, especially as most of them emerged heavily damaged by the drugs their mothers had forced down their throats. What? They kept the bodies to scare people into compliance, to terrify and horrify them, arranging the little corpses to stare out the door the moment you entered the room. What did you do? I dragged away the owners in cuffs. I dedicated my life and energies to making sure the nightmare was ended, then kept myself endlessly clean, flawlessly clean, making sure they never got out. No room to wriggle away, no path to try and slip out. And how did that work? The last man responsible for that nightmare died in prison 10 years ago, Observer Wu says. The youngest of their victims saw the birth of her granddaughter 2 years ago. She named her firstborn son after me. So, how are you holding up? I just need to process things. Despite everything I've seen, the image of a tormented, twisted child in the grip of death is too familiar. But this one is a hybrid of another species, not a deformed innocent. Sick, yes, but being cared for, professionally. Close to death, but being kept away. It was, however, far too close. Far too familiar. I needed a few minutes. You've been here an hour. Observer Wu states. To be fair, I hadn't set an alarm for my meditations. The undaunted on Centris retrieved information from the Floric there directly. The mother, grandmother, and other mother, aunt, the body the child was born from are all being cared for in the proper methods. And the techniques involved are even helping heal the child. Buddha is merciful, Observer Wu notes. You know, you haven't really referred to Buddha or anything specific faith-wise before, Captain Rangi notes. I'm still a little off balance, Observer Wu says before taking in a deep breath. But that no longer matters. I can return to my duties, he says and begins moving. Captain Rangi stops him with a single hand to the chest. We will be staying on Zalwar for at least an additional 24 hours to accommodate the leave. Are you about to force medical leave on me? Observer Wu asks. I would rather not, but I am willing to have it officially enforced if nothing else will get you to calm down and take time for yourself. Even machines need rest. Even gods take breaks. We mortals must pace ourselves and care for ourselves. Captain Rangi says, and Observer Wu slumps a little. You're right. Will you oppose me getting a snack and then taking a nap? I encourage both, Captain Rangi says. And if you need to talk to someone without feeling like you're giving things away, well, I'm in the same position you are, and a burden shared is a burden halved. All right. Thank you, my friend, Wu says, and Rangi claps him on the shoulder. You're welcome. Now relax a bit. You need it. Scene change. Undaunted arcology, Western Face Gardens, isolated recovery area, Zal War. Hooktail watches as the hired botanists scurry around to plant the additional flowers and bushes near the Floric. His job is now to protect them, and there are several other troops and private stream there as well to make sure no one tries anything. But the Floric's way of healing was interesting. Numerous plants would actually devour and process toxic metals and poisons from the earth, and a Floric could only push out toxins from their system at a set speed normally. But if it was into completely clean earth, it would be notably faster and could even be accelerated. So having them surrounded by the plants that would eat the poisons in them was just sensible. Couple that with growth totems that would cause the Floric systems to basically start working in overtime and, okay, we're ready, a lyric woman says. Are you sure they won't try anything? They're half dead at best. How can they try anything? Hooktail asks. I suppose, she says, and then activates the first totem. It causes a chain reaction, and the numerous flowers, bushes, and grasses start growing instantly. The axiom effect passes to the poison Floric, and they shudder at first. Then their color starts shifting, growing deeper, stronger, and the slight splotches fade away. There is a shimmering, gleaming texture to the surrounding plants as they grow taller and taller. Is that? Stem begins to ask before her hand reaches up above the now tall surrounding grasses. Alfrin grass. That's the answer to lead poisoning. How? One of ours went to the distant wild embassy on Centris and got the information. You are neither abandoned nor alone. Your people are still with you, and we have you too. Private Stream answers. Why though? Why do so much for us? It's the right thing to do. No one does anything just because it's right. We do. Granted, we're also good at finding ways to prosper from it. But that's just us learning to live with our goody two-shoes nature. Is it now? What two shoes has to do with helping others aside, thank you. But how do you profit from this? Simple. Floric need an advocate. Florics need a trading partner, and Floric have access to the unique resources of your homeworlds. If the rest of the galaxy doesn't want to deal with you, then being the middleman is where the money is. They pay us to keep you away. You pay us to keep them away. We're making money either way, and everyone's happy. That makes sense. Still, undaunted for middlemen? How strange. We're more than warriors. We're diplomatic, too. I'm sure. We're being diplomatic now. You want to know how we profit by providing a service? Make sense? At least you're not trying to sell me on the idea that you're just good for the sake of good. It's a perk and enough motivation for some. Others want money. Others want purpose. Others want novel experiences. People join the undaunted for a lot of reasons. And there are plenty of reasons to help you, Private Stream says before walking over. Now lie back down. I'll wager there's still a lot of crud in your system, and we didn't set this all up so you can just up and leave the moment you're capable of it. Stay for the full experience. I'm worried about how much this will cost. Why? Surely your life has enough value to let people help you. In exchange for what? STEM challenges. We haven't decided yet. Frankly, there's been no talk of fees or payment. Just help. That doesn't make sense. It doesn't have to make sense for it to help you. Besides, it's not like the Floric make a whole lot of sense. Half mammal, half plant? What? What insane creator deity decided that was the way to go? Private Stream asks and STEM lets out a huff. All right, let me just check on Vine and the family body, then I'll lay back down. Also, fair warning, if you try and force some huge debt on me, or use me or my family for experiments, then I will fight back. Good to know, glad to hear we have another reason to not do anything like that, beyond it being a supremely evil and pointlessly antagonistic thing to do. Private Stream says, and STEM starts to rise up, and Hooktail offers a claw for her to help herself up, and she levers herself up with a slight, audible snapping sound as she breaks off the tiny feeler roots that had been growing into the earth in search of nutrients. Is that healthy? Hooktail asks. What? She asks. You just broke off a bunch of tiny roots, right? Is that healthy? It's fine. Usually it's the sign of a good night's sleep, STEM says as she rises fully with his help and takes a step over to look down at Vine's head. Damn. I'm going to need to teleport that entire chunk of earth into the sky garden. She's putting down serious roots. You can tell at a glance? Use more than your eyes, young Andinus. Or at least learn to sense axiom without the mental shortcut of sight or sound. You'll notice more, STEM says as she puts the back of a knuckle against Vine's head and feels it. She's regaining hardness, good and quick. The purging is happening fast. She then steps over and begins examining the body before letting out a huff. This is going to be a big one. The body will need some trimming afterwards. Otherwise, we're going to end up with something starting to get into the larger scale of the galaxy. What? Hooktail asks, and STEM glances over at him before mulling it over, then shrugging. We're plants. We don't age past maturity. However, we also respond differently to damage. It makes us stronger, tougher. So long as we survive the blow, we grow more resilient. It's why we're rarely in hospitals or going for medical help. We don't need it. Usually, even limbs can be regrown, or specially grown and pruned limbs can be spliced onto the body. She then reaches down and taps the shoulder a few times. This girl has been growing into a denser and denser hardwood for decades now. With this attack, it's going to be the single most massive surge in power for the body. I'm not sure what's going to happen, but Petal here is going to be a very hard to control little girl. When her head grows in and she starts developing a personality at any rate. Oh, something else you should know, Hooktail begins. What is it? STEM asks. We've been trying to backtrack the viruses in your system. There may be a case for suing the people responsible for them. Do you want in on that? Why? Well, without you, we can still get them as their viruses hit us and our systems after we accessed your ship. Reckless endangerment, attempted murder, perhaps more due to how much harm it caused. To say nothing of the fact that multiple companies deliberately sold tainted product to law-abiding citizens. Won't work. Few judges or juries are sympathetic to the Floric. Even if laws are broken, we're always considered the perpetrator, not the victim. So you're just going to roll over and take it? Private Stream asks, and she turns to face him. And what do you suggest I do? Throw myself to the unfeeling, uncaring, and empowered others who would sooner see me set on fire and used to fertilize their gardens than give me the time of day. You were nowhere near this bitter before. I was nearly dead before and out of options. Now I've got some health back. I'm not stupid. We don't have anyone on our side and, and you're not acting the part. It's not adding up and I don't know why. And it's really putting my back up. The undaunted are founded by and shaped by humans. Maybe creatures out of cruel space act a little different than what you're expecting? Private Stream asks. Yeah, it was a big part of their training in tactical that it really doesn't matter what we think of one species or another. We have standards for how we treat them. Frankly, this is pretty par for the course. They can't get a better person to help you, so they're doing it themselves and figuring out how to make it profitable later, Hooktail says with a shrug. Really? It was near literally beaten into me. Also a weird lesson on hate. Hate? If you're going to hate someone, then you'll get a lot further by hating them for things they've done and not what was done to them, Hooktail says. The fuck kind of basic did you go to? Instructor Veers. He used the example of axiom effects being used to control others and the people controlled being the victims and not the perpetrators even if they're the ones covered in blood. He also showed off images of bioengineered monsters and explained that if you're going to hate someone, hate the person who made the monster and not the monster itself. That pity is more reasonable. I don't know, it was some kind of morality lesson that was trying not to touch faith or law. So, he shrugs. Into a Wider Galaxy, Part 470, Antlers, Assumptions, and Artillery. She smells something vaguely familiar, an entire bouquet of different scents. The poison must really be getting to her if she's smelling these things and her mind is associating it with other things. The mental combination is confusing, varied, and her eyes flutter open to find an image that has her blink. A plate of cooked meat, backlit by the crotch of a crouching Tret. What? Vine asks in an incredulous tone. Oh shit, she's awake, the Tret says, backing up a bit as she blinks and sees the bushes, tall grass, flowers, and the smell of the roasted meat and blinks. Her head is a lot clearer, still far from fully healed, but better. The Tret crouches down again and cranes his neck down a bit. Hey, I was wondering how to feed you while you were asleep. Apparently cooked meats are really healthy for a floric because it keeps almost all nutrition and is much easier to digest than raw. And how do you know that? We got some medical data on your people. Turns out that your idea of easy-to-digest food for the sick is what humans think of as a hearty centerpiece for a meal. Oh, and that is. Straight out of the non-human part of the cafeteria, I had some of this myself earlier. Slow-cooked pork, so tender it falls apart. And the smell? Safe and delicious add-ons to simulate the sheer amount of taste humans add to their food. And it's for me? Yes. Well, she says, looking to the side. Had she shoulders, she would have shrugged. Load me up, I guess, thank you. She opens her mouth as wide as she can and he approaches slowly with a small pinch of it. She sticks out her tongue and he gingerly places it on the appendage. She pulls it in and the meat is so soft she can just swallow it straight up. He says nothing and just stares at her. What? Where did it go? There's a tiny stomach in the back. You've probably noticed my head is more round and a bit larger than yours. Oh, and it all just sits back there? Sort of. It's a whole digestive system. Then where do you poop from when just a head? The stunned and very curious Tret asks. Impurities color the leaves I grow from my stem. I don't poop, she says, and he seems just stunned. More, please. She sticks out her tongue as he puts on a slighter, larger amount of meat on her tongue. It is savory, delicious, and goes down just as easy as the first bit. So it's good? The Tret asks. It's excellent. I almost wish I had more stomach to eat more of it. Speaking of, she says, holding her tongue out again. Another bit of well-cooked meat is put onto her tongue. She swallows it down quickly. A question just occurred to her. The family body, how is it? I think I faded in a bit and saw Mom walking earlier. But the body, we've got a guy putting bits of blood into the belly button, which is really weird. A second tiny mouth in the belly button. It has teeth. If that's bothering you, then don't look up what the skin around the shoulders and collarbone can do. I'm almost afraid to ask. Light sensitive. Not enough to actually see, but enough to navigate. If it needs to, the body can fight and flee and even hunt a little on its own. What the hell causes a species to develop a trick like that? The Tret asks incredulously. It's a common trick on the homeworld. The things that can't do it are so immensely tough that they're almost immobile. You know, things like carnicliffs and molens. What and what? Oh, nah, right. Carnicliffs and molens are gigantic slow-moving predators. One slowly, very slowly, pushes through the earth and can suddenly open its mouth under you to eat you alive. Carnicliffs come from higher up, suddenly falling on you and swallowing you whole before pretending to be a rock formation again. Both are basically massive moss predators. The moss on your world is hungry? Everything alive on the homeworld has an appetite for flesh and has flesh to be eaten. Everything, Vine says. Fucking terrifying. No wonder the Floric are so scary. Oh, please, we're as soft as a cloud and twice as cute, she says before holding out her tongue for more meat. Storm clouds, maybe, the Tret says as he puts more meat on her tongue. One more than I'm full, Vine says after swallowing and holding out her tongue again. She gets the last little bit and swallows it quickly. You've got totems in the ground. I can feel my bones starting to form. Okay? The Tret asks. Never mind, she says. So if you're full, is there anything else you need? Do you have access to our ship, the Sky Garden? We do. There's a special communicator in it. It's incorporated into a wedge-like stand and has a patch on a length of wire on it. Can you bring it here and put the patch above my left eye? It'll let me, use it without hands. Right, private stream. Did you catch that? The Tret says. On it. A nearby and youthful voice states, and Vine can feel someone teleport nearby. How many people are here? A fair amount, but the grasses, bushes, and flowers are plenty tall, so beyond the area we've trimmed around you, it's pretty hard for you to see anyone. Ah, that. Got it. The perky voice returns to reveal that the source is a small child in an oversized uniform and a perky disposition. He hands over the communicator and the Tret quickly sets it up on her. Need anything else? He asks here and she thinks, well, so long as I'm getting the luxury treatment, for some reason, then a bit more water in the soil will help, she says as the communicator turns on and starts going through some things. The modified light on the top turns on and she smiles at the feel of the specially tuned sun lamp. Not a powerful one, but a comforting one to have it from that direction. It feels more normal. The screen starts to flicker and she starts to go through files. The place they ended up was Scrap Trap, and there they are on the news bulletins, with an image of her and her mother, and she starts looking through things, scanning to see any hint at what happened to Forrest. What are you looking for? Private Stream asks, leaning over from behind. What? She asks. What are you looking for? He asks again. My son Forrest. I want to know what happened to him. Bundle of Joy Pediatrics. He's a ward of Electric Mama, Private Stream says. If she could turn her head, she would. It's for the best. He's not Floric, and with his youngest mother being formed, he would be in danger. Is there no instinct to not eat non-Floric family? Newly formed Floric are bitey. Couple that with the powerful bodies they inherit, growing stronger and stronger and stronger with each generation, and they're almost impossible to contain. It would take seconds at most. Just seconds of inattention, and Forrest would be a memory. Is there not a door you can lock? Not a door strong enough. The knowledge of how to use Axiom, read, write, use most technology, and even a few languages are retained. Is math? Not beyond the very basics. Some history is in it too. But the clearest thing is the predators and dangers of the homeworld. We're formed able to identify all of them at a glance, Vine explains. That's the clearest thing. Dangers the body has survived. It's a survival mechanism. For example, that body, the family body. We instinctively know how to survive depressurization. I know exactly how to survive the side of the ship I'm in being ripped open. Not that I can do much of it now. I don't have arms or legs at the moment. And you remember it too? Floric, we are very hard to kill. It's what made us dominant on our homeworld. We are born fully aware of how to survive everything it can throw at us. And if we survive something new, then our children know it too, Vine says. So the next child, Petal, she will be named Petal, Vine says. Petal, she will be far better at processing poisons. Yes, my new body will. It won't have the toughness of my old one, but the knowledge, the sheer survival skills. It will have that. So newly formed floric bodies are frailer? Of course, the toughness comes from age. It's like scarring for other races. It's much more beneficial for floric. My new body will have no scars, so to speak. Got it, Private Stream says before pausing. Wait, is this why floric rarely go to hospitals? You're avoiding healing comas? Yes, Vine says, which means it's not just the bad reputation that keeps you secret. You're a self-secluding species compared to most. Couple that with your... Excuse me, Vine says. Yes? Could you please stop? I'm not really comfortable being spoken about like that. Oh, sorry, he replies. Is there anything else you need? A bit of privacy. I need to speak with Electric Mama, Vine says. Are you sure you're up for it? You're still on the mend, Private Stream asks. This needs to be done, and the sooner the better, Vine says. All right, let me just give you a special number. If you call it, you'll get into contact with someone in the Private Stream initiative, so you'll get someone like me, Private Stream says as he messes with his communicator for a few moments before tapping her modified communicator. The information downloads. All right, thank you, but I need to talk to this Electric Mama, woman to woman. All right, do you need a privacy field or something? No, just some distance, Vine says, and Private Stream nods and leads away the tread. After waiting to see if she has at least a few paces from everyone else, she starts looking through for contact information on Electric Mama. She sends an email labeled Priority to her account and waits a few moments. The title of her Mother of Your New Child Wants to Talk is hopefully enough of an attention getter. Apparently so, as she has a call coming in. She answers it and sees the face of a Gobe woman staring back at her as she answers it. Well, 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 you're looking better. Considering how much weight I've lost, I would say so. To the chase then. Do you want him back? I'll be visiting a lot, but non-floric are not safe around newly formed floric. Even other floric aren't completely safe, and when I tore myself off my body, a new floric, Electric Mama states, yeah, which means that when she starts moving, she might hurt him if he's with us. For all that she's another mother, she won't be mature enough to be trusted around another person. Not until her 3rd month, and even then she might be more immature than average and take a nibble. So in 3 months No, look, you've stepped up and are willing to help him. That means a lot in floriculture. Care in desperate times means a lot. If you want to be his mother to Forrest, I won't contest it. There's less risk and more opportunity with you anyways. I'm calling to see if there's anything I can offer to help. You're just giving him up? It's not safe with us. Not as safe as it needs to be. Normally we're more subtle when we pass a child to someone. Normally we take time, make absolutely sure. But the sabotage on our ship, the fact we were dying, that took the time from us. You have means, right? Resources? A life that isn't drowning in life and death circumstances? I run the arenas of Scrap Trap, prosthetic warriors waging gladiatorial combat. I have tons of cash, I'm well respected, and the only thing I want in my life is a man. You're not planning on grooming Forrest, are? I've been teasing and tempting the undaunted. They're the local prize. Okay, and you yourself are not in danger. Not fighting yourself? Safe and reliable? Vine presses. Yes. Good, very good. Oh, thank goodness. Even dying, I got it right. If there is any information or resources I can get to you to help with raising Forrest, just tell me. I'll do everything I can to get it for you. I'll save your number. I'm sure you'd love updates. Yes, please and thank you. Are you girls really dangerous to your own children? Me? No. The child forming from the body I tore myself from? Maybe. Perhaps even likely. We need to get up in our ship and away from normal people before Petal fully forms herself and gains proper mobility. Normal, hun? Electric Mama asked before shrugging. Well, either way, want to take a look at him? See how he's doing? Please.